Good morning. This is Tom Warren, coming from St. Mary's Episcopal Church. This is our usual Christian formation hour on Sunday mornings, and I am joined this morning with some representatives from SAFE in Lenoir County. Erin, who is the interim executive director of this organization, and Jennifer Mervin, who is a victims services coordinator. Wanted to get that correct. I'm learning so much about SAFE today, and I'm glad that you're going to be able to be with us from wherever you are on this Sunday morning, this fourth Sunday in Lent. This has been we are still in the midst of a series for our Christian formation class for adults, where we are learning about servant ministry. If you're just tuning in, if this is the first time that you've been with us for these conversations, then just as a brief introduction, the season of Lent is usually and primarily a season of enhanced devotion to prayer. Oftentimes it entails a lot of introspection, wondering about what's going on in my heart to draw me closer to God. And in the midst of that, certainly, as we draw closer to God, we are also invited to serve and to love others. And so we thought it was going to be a helpful conversation series for this season to look at how people are serving others in our community. We began our series with a presentation and a conversation with the Venerable Janet Rodman, who is the Archdeacon of the Diocese of East Carolina. Deacons in the Episcopal Church are people who bring the needs of the world to the attention of the church, and the love and the resources of the church to the needs of the world. That's what they do in their ordained capacity. And that was a wonderful conversation. We also had a conversation with Chris Jenkins from Hope Restoration, also here in Kinston, and that was a video that was recorded last Sunday, where you can pull it up and see that conversation where you learn about the great work of Hope Restorations. And I'm so grateful that Erin and Jennifer have agreed to come on out and continue the conversation with us this morning. So welcome to you two, and welcome to all of you wherever you are. And I'm glad that we're all here together. I'm going to go take my seat. Well, friends, again, I'm glad that you're here in the midst of everything going on. I pray that your lives are as stable as they can be, that you are making all the best decisions for your family and for your workplace. And so part of our conversation is certainly going to include questions for you about how SAFE is operating in the midst of this coronavirus time that we're all living in. But before we get to that, would you tell us just more about what SAFE in Lenoir County is?
SAFE started in 1985, and originally it was just a domestic violence organization, and for just under 20 years we've done sexual assault. And our old executive director, Sue Crafter, retired on December 31st of 2019, and she had been there for 30 years. We are planning a little retirement get together for her, but we don't know how long that will be postponed with all of this social distancing business. But it's been something that we definitely need. We cover Lenoir and Greene counties. For a time, we covered Duplin County as well. It was very, very difficult to service, so another agency services Duplin County now, the one that's closer. And we are no longer doing sexual assault, but we do have the agency that does sexual assault can meet in our office anytime that she needs. So we are still assisting and coordinating with that as well. But we are really trying to get back to domestic violence as a standalone domestic violence agency, and do the best job that we possibly can for the people of Lenoir and Greene County. And I know people don't know this, but we also, we are not allowed to reserve beds for in-county residents only. So if someone calls us and we have room from another county or another state, then we're required to accept them. So we serve people from all over. I guess we do a couple of things. We have empowerment classes that we hold ourselves. Our advocates, Jennifer and Marquis, take those classes or teach those classes. We also have a battery intervention program that Sue still teaches for men, and every now and then we do. There are women abusers, of course. We take men in our shelter as well. So we do have those things. We've got both sides. So we help treat the abuser, and we also help treat and try to restore the victim to a wholeness, really. And I guess the hardest part is when people don't know the signs of domestic violence, or they don't know that they're worth it, and they come in and they don't know that they're better than being treated that way.
So I read that SAFE started in 1985, so there's a long, rich history here in Lenore County. Do you know much about how the organization began here? Is there?
I do not remember as far as the foundations are concerned, but I do know that, if anyone ever writes our name, especially if you see it, then the first 4 letters of SAFE, with only 4 letters of SAFE, is all capitalized. That does stand for Safety from Abuse and Family Education. So that actually entails our mission right there. As far as, because we are trying to keep our victims safe from the abuse, as well as bring an awareness to the community as far as education is concerned. I do know Miss Carolyn Fields. She retired 2018, maybe 2018, May 2018, and she was also an instrumental part as far as safety is concerned, because she had been there longer than Sue, who's probably had. There was a lot of things that she was able to just reach the communities. And then Sue came on a few years after then. But the mission has always been, making sure that we're providing a safe place for those who may find themselves in harm's way.
So let's talk more about that. What are the services that SAFE provides to individuals? I heard something about empowerment classes. Can you say more about what someone can expect if they were to come to SAFE for some help?
Well, it all really depends on why they're coming. Of course, we always, our hotline and crisis line operates 24/7. But once someone calls us and we listen to the needs, then we're able to better provide the resources and to figure out which way we need to go. We on an everyday basis, what we try to do is to allow to assist the clients that actually call with domestic violence protective orders, which falls under the general statute of 50B, whereas it deeply entails what and defines what abuse is according to the statute. If so happen to find those elements have been met, then we assist the clients with filling out the 50Bs and assisting with court advocacy. Then we, if there's something else that may disclose to us, first of all, everything that we do is confidential. Okay. So there's only certain things that we can talk about if the clients allow us to, reach out and talk to other people about.
So employees of SAFE have a confidentiality.
Yes.
You could not be forced to say something if someone were to tell you.
Exactly. And that's one of the initial things there that we get the clients to understand is that everything that you tell us is confidential. We also, let them know that we are not attorneys, so we cannot, practice or give any type of legal advice. So those are things that's at the forefront. So that's a bit of ease for them. So, if something is happening, within your home, then, we can't just, whether your next door neighbor is doing this, so we can't do that. We can't disclose anything as far as that's concerned. But once we fill out the paperwork and then we go to the next step as far as contacting the court. And once the paperwork is sent to court, a lot of times there's an advocate that goes to court with the with the client just for more support, to let them know what is actually going on, how the process is going to actually happen. Because there's a lot of people that's unfamiliar with the court system and how to maneuver through the court system. And once we do that, of course, we have a relationship with the judges as well as the attorneys and the DAs and people like that to make this process, less scary, and more comfortable for the clients that we actually serve. If so happen we find the clients in need of assistance, as far as legal assistance, then we refer them to legal aid of North Carolina, which, they have particular regions and divisions that we can just refer them to, and then they'll take over the legal aspect of it as far as representing them in court. But also understand that 50Bs with domestic violence protected orders are civil actions, not criminal actions, as well. So sometimes those things are handled differently.
And then in addition to the legal parts of what a case might entail, there's the personal, there's the individual, health and safety part. And I think is that more of what the empowerment classes are about, or some of the other resources that you do? What could that entail if you're offering somebody who comes to you one of those classes? What would that look like?
If the empowerment classes are actually offered, it's suggested, because we also have to do recommendations and referrals by some of our funders. They ask us to do that. And so we have a list of suggestions, which, everything we do, we try to empower the clients to make these decisions of how they want to go forth within their lives. The empowerment classes, sometimes they do it voluntarily, they just sign up voluntarily. Sometimes they're mandated by the court system. Not the court system, they're mandated by the Department of Social Services if they're involved. A lot of times there are people that have children in domestic violence homes, and so, just helping them understand that these are unhealthy relationships. Your children should not be in these types of situations. Right. But as I stated before, once they come into empowerment classes, what we try to make sure they understand that these are things that could be happening in your home that you may not have recognized as domestic violence, but they are abnormal. This is not normal. These are things that are happening that's not normal. And
not
then,
only not normal, but detrimental to the person and their children, especially. And
so once we do that, then, of course, we talk about, the effects it may have on the children, the effects that, that it may have on you as far as your self-esteem is concerned. Just trying to get them back to a functioning, I wouldn't say the word functioning, mentally healthy person. Because a lot of times, emotional abuse is always the hardest to get over, because of the fact that you can always have flashbacks. You can always go back and imagine yourself in that particular situation, and at any particular time, something can just trigger that. So, we try to make sure that you're whole enough and you're well enough that once you see this person or you have these flashbacks, or you start to even move into another relationship, and you're able to recognize those signs, so you won't complete that cycle again.
I think physical abuse is certainly something that can be more easily recognized. What you're touching on, though, is also the emotional side of abuse. So if you have, so what you're saying is SAFE is available to I'm going to use the word ministry. I see all service organizations, whether they would use this language or not, I see it as ministry to be with people, serving them. If people are feeling emotionally abused, this is also something that is acknowledged and recognized with your organization, and people can come to you for assistance and help.
Of course. It is so difficult to recognize from anyone outside what emotional abuse looks like. And so many times it is, I'm not minimizing physical abuse, but you can see the external scars. It's so hard to see what's on the heart and how much it breaks a person. And getting them to realize that, and then having to watch them go through therapy, and we don't ever see the whole completed cycle of it. Sometimes people come back and give us an update or something like that, but it's not that often. So when people leave us, they're on their way to recovery. But those emotional scars are so, so hard to identify, and they're so, so hard to heal from. But there is an organization that can help you, and we're here to, we're not counselors, but we are here to support and empower the person to let wholeness.
So you mentioned you're not counselors, and you've also given voice, you're not lawyers and attorneys. Who are the community partners that are sources or resources that you would point your clients towards? Obviously, it's case by case, but who are some folks that in town or in the region that are helpful to what you're also trying to accomplish?
Well, legal aid, like Jennifer said, they are really they take care of the legal aspect of it. We do have an organization, the North Carolina Coalition Against Domestic Violence. So if we have a special case and we're really not sure, and even our lawyers in town or legal aid is not sure how to do that or what to do, there are domestic violence specific lawyers and resources. Anytime we have a tricky case and we're really not sure what all is in the bag, the Coalition Against Domestic Violence they're paid to assist the agencies in the larger scope of things. So they're a great resource for us when we don't know what to do, or if there's a tricky case. But community organizations,
ICOR, real quick, I'll give a plug to ICOR. That's the Interchurch Outreach, and that's an organization that's been around for decades as well, that provides lots of help and assistance in the means of help with bills and utilities and some food. That organization I'm a bit more familiar with because of the Association of Congregations that started it back in the day. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah.
For those who may not know what ICOR is, that's want to give that plug.
Especially churches, we love churches, and all our church groups. They constantly fill our office with hygiene bags, and we don't even need we don't even need anybody to be extra and put them all in hygiene bags, which is super sweet. But I'll even take a bag of washcloths or a bag of whatever, hand sanitizer. We've been really blessed with our community. Health and Human Services, Social Security,
law enforcement, the health department. But if I can, let's go back. I think that the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence says that one, I think well, and we use, female because they are most of the time the lesser party, and the other party, the victims in domestic violence. But every 9 seconds, a woman is beaten. So just we round it off to 10. So that means that there's 6 women that have actually been beaten per minute. So regardless of how many minutes we're here, we just multiply that times 6. And that can show you the impact that domestic violence has nationwide. Also, we are actually seeing an increase as far as male victims are concerned. We're seeing an increase of domestic violence in the LGBTQ plus, or some people say IA community, which has shown to be more violent in that particular congregation of people, as well as teen violence. There's a lot of teenagers that are actually going through domestic violence for whatever reasons. Whether they're trying to fit in. Recently I did a teen dating violence awareness month, which is in February, out to Green Central High School. And one of the things that they were saying that now they're faced with more sexual abuse than any other type of abuse because of the age. The age of time, because of the time, not as far as the age of the kids. But those are things that we should really be concerned about, because if we cannot prevent or intervene in this particular age group of high school students, or even as far as the middle age, they're going to grow up thinking that these unhealthy relationships are normal, and that's not true. So if we can get into the midst of these communities and say, hey, this is not right, then, you know, we're taking a stance and say, you know, there are other ways and other means we can actually get out.
What are some of the hopes for SAFE looking ahead to the future in terms of, well, that could be a two-part question. First part is, how have y'all been impacted by what's going on with the COVID-19 reactions that we're all dealing with?
That's a long answer, so you're gonna have to remind me of the second one.
Okay, we'll see about the second one. We may not get to it, so let's go.
So initially, we closed down our office. We are still working remotely. Jennifer and I don't follow rules very well, so we've been not social distancing in the office. I'm sorry. But there's a lot, we're not allowed to close down our services. So we are still available 24/7, 365 days a year, COVID or not, to make referrals. Our hotline is always available. We have adapted special measures to be able to serve people remotely. Right now it's just by phone, but I do love how we've turned something that everybody is so bogged down by technology. Put your phone down, get off the internet. I do love that we already have this platform in place to make serving others and just continuing life in general available. You know, I mean, imagine how awful it would be if we didn't already have these platforms. So I'm very thankful for that. Our shelter aides still have to be there. We have adopted some different measures. We are not allowed to screen anyone when they come in. We still have to help them whether or not they are experiencing symptoms or are COVID positive.
So you are not screening people for the coronavirus, but you do have like...
We do have our same domestic violence.
That's right.
No one is even asked if they have that, but before they come into our shelter, we do have measures in place to quarantine them for up to 2 weeks. And if they're not experiencing symptoms, they can come into the shelter. If they are, they will still stay in the other location.
Right.
So we are still accepting shelter clients 100%. We are still here to help anybody. If you need to talk to somebody, we are still making referrals. Please call us. And, you know, hand washing, I think Jennifer and I have printed out and laminated. We can make a good team of printing and laminating.
Exactly.
And our sweet shelter Miss Amy will go hang up all the stuff. So we're just kind of learning, taking it day by day, doing the best we can to take precautions for ourselves. But at the end of the day, the victim and their needs are more important. So we're still kind of going. I don't know how things will go, how challenging it will get in the future, but we are still here to provide assistance to those that need it.
The mission is still needed, and so the work is still being done. So
we do
just have to just
see
adapt to what we can do.
in times of crisis, national disaster, especially hurricanes, tornadoes, very cold weather, any type of natural disaster occurrence, it is proven statistically that the incidence of IPV, which is interpersonal violence, escalates. So we are expecting to see more increasing calls.
Unfortunately.
And as anybody who's been trapped in their home, and right now we're still kind of free to run around. We're behind the curve, some other places, so we haven't been trapped in our homes with our loved ones for too long just yet. But I know that tensions start to play. It's like a family trip.
all of those different events that you just mentioned, those are events that cause stress.
Exactly.
So in a lot of these events, we can know that everyone is feeling stress. We're all trying to deal with this in our own ways. And then I know that SAFE has dealt with folks who are just having family stress. Anything can cause that. So I think it's good and it's helpful for you to give voice to the fact that we are in a stressful time. So in all of our organizations, all of our ways of of serving people should have that in our awareness. How can we help to mitigate the stress that we're all feeling as we're in our communities in whatever way that we can be? Is there a way that we can speak peace and give advice and give help and give people outlets in a safe way to decrease that stress level?
Well, one of the things that Erin had mentioned earlier is, everybody's home together now. And so, whereas, some of us may not be going to work, the kids are home from school. So we have these untrained homeschoolers now that have, don't have degrees. So everything is trial and error.
And untrained homeschool teachers. Right?
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to get to. But it's been very interesting. But so there's a lot of stressors that actually people are starting to experience. First of all, financial. The fact that, I have these kids all day now. And, so how am I going to do that? Just so happened, I am certified in Triple P. Triple P is, if you're unfamiliar, is Positive Parenting Program. And so there are ways that we can help you get through those stressful times, especially when you start to exhibit certain behaviors. Right. But I think the key thing here is communication. And just learning how to adapt on a day-to-day basis, hour-to-hour basis. Whereas I can't leave or I'm having to deal with this, and we should be able to see this as an opportunity to draw us closer together. Whereas that, this is something I have to deal with right now because I can't walk away from it. So how do I step back, reassess the situation, and then try to think of the positive things and seeing the positive side of all of this instead of exemplifying other behaviors, And so we're learning how to respond instead of react.
I think one of the things, like, we have had it on our fridge for probably 10 years, but and you used to see them a lot. They're a little magnet, and it says how I feel today, happy, sad, whatever it is, and then you move a little thing so it circles the one. I think that is a really good tool. If you can print out just print out a feeling sheet and identifying how am I feeling. For me, I've got to do all this with my 2 children, and I really like to think that I know something about technology, right? I usually fix the computers or something, but this has been difficult for me. And I don't always stop myself ahead of time, but recognizing or stopping and seeing how am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way? Is it something that I can change? And am I directing my anger, frustration, anxiety? Am I directing it at the right person or individual, or is this even? And I found myself, because we have just spring cleaned, and there's stuff out of the closets, and we're just trying to. I was planning to donate a bunch of stuff and take some stuff to a consignment sale. So there's stuff everywhere. And my husband made me take all my fabric out and all my sewing stuff. So it's everywhere. So it's very difficult for me to work from home. I am super ADD. So I just found myself just a ball of nerves. And then I started yelling at everybody to clean. And then I had to call a family meeting, and I had to say, this is not directed at you. So just that purposeful, taking that moment to look inside yourself. What am I upset about? Is it something I can change? And then voicing to others, because you have to have that communication. I'm feeling very anxious. I'm feeling all of these things. Please understand that this is not directed at you. So those kinds of things, just taking a minute, having family meetings. I know that the children are especially concerned, given what's going on. My children go to Bethel, so they still have their classes online, and they have devotionals, and I love listening in to their devotionals. I was going to say little devotionals, but no, devotionals little. So I love listening into those and just kind of taking that minute, because I haven't taken a minute to really kind of assess, but when he said, they asked for prayer requests, but my youngest child always says, please keep my family safe, please keep my family safe. So while we have the news on in the background, and usually the news is on all the time anyway, kind of in the background, but just making sure that we speak to our children. I guess it's not really domestic violence related, but it is a scary time. So talking to our children and letting them know that we're okay. And for me and my family, that is prayer. And, okay, you can ask God to protect you, and he's going to protect you. Just kind of giving them that reassurance, or even if that is not your faith, just reassuring them and being there for them. And your spouses, because my spouse continues to work, and just kind of being aware of the family dynamic, who's going to work, who's looking after the children, who's making sure they're submitting their things. And even if you don't have children, just looking at how talking to your spouse or your significant other and evaluating, hey, where are we? Are you doing okay with this? How can I help you? Just having those conversations, which aren't always fun when really you just kind of want everybody to go to their rooms. But just keeping that communication and that dialogue open, and being able to accept whatever someone is telling you.
Where they are.
Open ears, yeah.
What I'm hearing is being self-aware is really important in any time you have a relationship with someone. Knowing who you are and where you are spiritually, emotionally, so that things don't get out of whack with however you're able to express yourselves. But then also communicating well. So couples, but even this would extend to the workplace and in other areas of our lives, being able to speak in a way that is, so in my premarital counseling experiences, assertive speaking, being able to speak clearly what it is that you are trying to express in a non-judgmental or not highly emotional way. But then active listening, where the person is just trying to receive that message and then able to say back, here's what I heard, here's what I think you're trying to get across. Is that what you're trying to get across? These are pretty basic skills, but I would imagine to be incredibly important on the preventative end of what safe in Lenore County is all about. And that seems to also play into what you were talking about, the PPP.
Triple P.
The triple P. Is that
Even though it is PPP, but it's triple P.
Well, triple P. It's easier to say. I like that. And so that's on the parenting end of just being up front and giving people skills to prevent, to mitigate the stressful situations of parenting.
Yeah.
Under the best of circumstances, parenting is not a cakewalk, right? I mean, it's
all trauma.
That's right.
And each child is different.
That's right.
And so each child maybe showing different types of behaviors, because child one may not be like child two.
It won't be.
So those things that we have to learn along the way. So we're here to help you. We have different strategies.
Is Triple P something that is available? Is that a resource online, or is that something like, how can families, if they're listening to this, like, man, I want some of that Triple P resource in my life here? What is that? How can?
Triple P, and I think Triple P actually originated in Australia, and I cannot remember what the man's name is, but I do know that Steve Roman is the person who actually covers our area. There are so many of us here within the county that's actually Triple P certified. There's different levels, and each level entails different age groups as well as special needs, kids with special needs, teens, groups, all those different type of things. So whatever it is that you may be experiencing as far as your children are concerned, then there's someone nearby, closely, that can actually refer you to Triple P.
I don't know how that changes during this time, but Triple P does have like rock cards almost,
Mhm.
but just hand out sheets, and I'll see if we can't get some of those posted on Facebook.
Mhm.
If
I'm
people
sure
can
that
Google
makes it
Triple P,
better.
I'm sure that will pop up.
They
as
can.
well.
And
Yeah.
I know we've thrown a lot of communication techniques out, but if people will just remember, just very, very basically, speak with love,
Mhm.
do things with kindness and love, then you're always going to turn out on the right side of anything. So when 3 weeks into this, when we're all really losing our minds, then just if we can all just remember to speak with love and kindness
And
and
show respect.
yeah, that golden rule.
Mhm. Definitely show respect.
These go back to the heart of what the Christian faith is about. Jesus was asked, what's the most important law that there is? Love God.
It's the very most simple,
yeah.
basic thing you can do, and I guarantee you'll be better for it. So.
Absolutely. Well, this whole world, loving God and then loving your neighbor as yourself. And then Jesus went a little bit further than that later on, and he says, love your neighbor as I have loved you. And we saw the most powerful example of that on the cross.
Wow.
He said that right before he actually knelt down and washed his disciples' feet. And that actually is another powerful reminder, I think, of any sort of relationship. But certainly, marriages and any other romantic relationship that we have, to love your spouse in a way that you are seeking to serve them. And servant does not mean to be a doormat,
Right.
to be a servant necessarily in a way that is not healthy, but to serve them truly, to make them a more whole person. And that would help
Great.
the household, that would help each other, looking to make this whole world truly a stronger and more faithful place.
Thing that I do want to say, we are a safe space for all different types, walks. We will not discriminate based on any reason whatsoever. And I do just want to encourage people who are part of the LGBTQIA community, plus now as well, that we are a safe space. And I don't know how many people know this, but people of that community that are in abusive relationships, their abusers have more tools to isolate them, because it's a growing community, but especially in rural communities like this, it's still it's a small community. No matter how you look at it, it's a small community. And some of the ways that people exert power and control, abusers exert power and control, is by isolating their significant other. So in a town where we're already pretty small anyway, isolating them from an already small community is really, really difficult. So we are aware of those issues. There's a greater prevalence. I'll just say that we have open doors regardless of race, creed, religion, sexual orientation. It does not matter where you come from, anything. We are open to everybody, and we may not always have the answers. We do have a very well-trained staff. We're required to have 20 hours a year. Jennifer usually triples that. But if we don't have an answer, we'll find it, and we'll do our very best to help everybody who comes.
Last question for our viewers, for churches in general, for anyone. What are ways that your ministry, that your work can be supported?
Your prayers, of course, absolutely, all the time. Your prayers, support. We do have a handful of churches that send us donations, just, I guess, from maybe somebody earmarked it in the offering plate. I don't know. But we're very, very grateful for that. Sometimes it's $150 a month. Sometimes it's $47.12.
Every little bit helps, right?
Every little bit helps, because our funders fund us for a certain number of things, but those community resources are so important. And we always need paper towels, laundry detergent, hygiene item. Really, is the most basic.
But on the flip side of that, also if you find someone that may be in a domestic violence situation, believe that person. Make sure that person is safe. There's a lot of times, we find people within the household of faith that are, that may be experiencing domestic violence, and they come into the pastors or, for biblical counseling. But sometimes you need that community resource to actually connect that person to the, to actually help them get out of that particular situation. We do know that the Bible is true. We know God is sovereign, but we also know that He put particular people in our communities that we're able to connect those people that's outside our expertise together. And I really think that's just so important because, while you're praying, we can actually be doing the other things as far as, so we need everybody just to work together. But if someone comes and, and say, I need help, I'm experiencing these things, then, I don't feel as if it's normal anymore, then we need to do more than just pray about it. We actually need to be about it, because faith without works is dead. And so we have to make those connections regardless of who the person is. As Erin stated before, we don't discriminate. Domestic violence is so prominent in the household of faith. I've been to court with so many of them. And it's not the fact that God is not there with them, but still, nevertheless, they need that security. And you can be in a safe place, just like we are right now, as far as being in the household and being into the church, itself. But we want those people that's experiencing domestic violence to be mentally safe as well. And so if we can get them to the point where they're mentally safe, that strengthens them to be able to walk further down this particular road that they're on right now. But never not believe them. Make sure that, everybody is aware of the resources that are actually within our communities that's available for victims of domestic violence. And then that way, don't, let them know that, this is nothing to be ashamed of. And if you know the parties, then, make sure you direct them and, into, down those particular roads that they need to go. Because this is not just a Lenoir County problem. This happens, in regards to whether you're straight, LGBTIQ, same-sex partners, the dynamics are always still the same. It's not different for those people that's outside the faith than what it is inside the faith, because the dynamics are still the same. It's the abuse is going to surface the exact same ways. And so, whether it's here, whether it's in California, whether it's, in Ukraine, wherever, the domestic violence is still going to be the same. It's still going to be the same. So make sure that you support her. Make sure, you support the person. And I'm so used to saying her. But make sure we show support for that person. Make sure we believe them. And make sure that even if we're unaware, then invite us in so we'll be able to explain the dynamics. Whether it's small church groups or women group, kids groups, or whatever, and let us be able to come in and just say, hey, this is what we're up against. And still, open and close with prayer. Never, the Bible says pray without ceasing. So there's always something that's out there to actually pray. And then you may mention a while ago, as far as like Jesus, washing the feet, he girded himself with a towel, which is, that shows signs of humility. And so this is a ministry, and this is what we're here to do. We are our brothers and sisters keepers. We are, the ones that's out there, because if we turn a deaf ear to this, then, that blood will be applied to our hands. So we have to make sure that we are doing everything within our powers, and if we do not know, make sure we point those people in toward the resources that they know. And then in the meantime, we're educating ourselves so we can be more aware of what to do the next time.
Jennifer, Erin, I cannot thank you enough for the work that you're doing, the work that you're making possible, the ways that you are providing a resource and literally a safe place for people who need it in our community. And I know that there are people all over the world who are doing similar work to what you're doing. And let's follow the advice that has come out of our own conversation and close in this prayer. then invite all of you to join with us at this time. The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, you have made this world and this creation with great glory and great beauty, and we know that you love everything that you have made. Part of your love calls us to know that we are of infinite worth, that we are made in your image, and you love each one of us. You died for each one of us. And so as we live our lives together, we do ask that you would help us to see the image of Christ in one another. We ask that you would help us to order our lives and to help to support one another and make each other know that they are indeed loved by you as well. For those people who may be hearing this and have been touched in particular ways by this conversation and by the ministry of SAFE in Lenore County, we ask that you would encourage them, that you would lead them to make any changes in their lives that are needed. Seek the counsel of trusted leaders in their lives and in their communities. And we ask that you would continue to uplift the work and the ministry of SAFE in Lenore County. Everyone who works there and sees it as a ministry and as fulfilling your purposes, Lord, we ask that you would continue to encourage and to give them all that they need to do so. We ask that all of us, as we close this Christian Formation Hour, would have our hearts and our minds and our eyes open to the way that you see the world, and that you would help us to respond in faith, no matter what we see and do today, that you would lead us in wise and faithful decisions. For this day is a new one for us all. And we ask these things in the name of your Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ, and in the power of your Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you again.
I do want to say
Yeah.
our hotline number is 252-523-5573. I guess we'll put a link.
We can absolutely put a link on there. Absolutely. Friends, I hope that this has been a blessing to you and that you will have a wonderful day. God bless you. I cannot wait to be with you again.